Hey, BTR1389 here. Guns have always been one of my favorite hobbies. I love the history behind them, I love how they work, and I love shooting them. So I'm going to start doing videos that are like a combination review slash history lesson on whatever the particular gun I have that day. We're going to start off with one of my personal favorites, the Walther PPK. Let's do a safety check. No round in the chamber, no magazine in the gun, and both magazines are empty. We'll do the history part first. It all started in 1929 when Walther introduced the PP, and that stands for Polizeipistola, or police pistol in English. It came in 3 calibers, 22 long rifle, 32 ACP, and 380 ACP. 2 years later, in 1931, Walther introduced the PPK in the same 3 calibers. The K stands for Kriminalmodell, or detective model. And it was named that way because it was smaller and lighter, and that allowed for officers who wanted to conceal the gun to do it more comfortably and easily. Now, both pistols were very popular among police, civilians, and during World War II, the Nazi Party. In fact, Adolf Hitler actually used a 32 ACP PPK to commit suicide. I always thought that was just an interesting fact that a lot of people actually don't know. Another interesting point about the PP and the PPK is that they were among the real first successful and mass-produced semi-automatic double-action pistols. Most guns back then, like the Colt 1911 or the TT-33 Tokarev, were single-action only. And if you don't know what double action is when the hammer is forward, you still have the ability to pull the trigger and fire the gun. And single action is you can only fire the gun while the hammer is back, like this. Because the PP and the PPK were designed so well, it inspired many copies, and probably the most notable is the Russian Makarov. If you actually look at it, it looks very similar, it functions very similar, and it actually fires a very similar round. After World War II, the PPK sold very well in America, and it sold even better in the 1960s. This is most likely due to a certain secret agent by the name of James Bond carrying one. The same thing happened in the 1970s when Dirty Harry hit the big screens wielding a Smith & Wesson Model 29. People just loved to buy the guns that the heroes in movies carried. However, all the imports of PPKs were halted because of the Gun Control Act of 1968. This banned the importation of any gun that did not meet the ATF's requirements on size and weight. So Walther remedied this by making the PPKS. It came in 2 calibers, 32 and 380 ACP. And it's just a combination of the PP's frame and the slide and barrel of the PPK. Now, Walther still makes the PPK and the PPKS, although they are made under contract now in the United States by Smith & Wesson. They are only made in the United States now, as far as I'm aware. They've had a pretty good track record, except for in 2009, when there was a pretty bad defect that when you had the hammer back and you decocked the gun, it could actually still fire because the trigger brake, the hammer brake did not work. That's bad, so they fixed it. I believe it only affected a relatively small number of pistols, but now there are no defects like that. Since the PPK and the PPKS have been manufactured, nowadays there's only 3 really big changes, and 3 only changes I'm aware of. First one, you can now get it in stainless steel as well as the normal blued. Second, the tang, this is both the PPK and the PPKS, the tang, which is this part right here, has been elongated. And that's to help prevent what's called slide bite. If you don't know what that is, it's when the slide is moving backwards. It bites the skin, the web of your hand right here, because it's up too high. Especially if you have big hands like me. And if Smith & Wesson has any way of help preventing that, I'm all for it. Now, the last change I actually just learned about, and it's not really talked about that much, but it's a pretty significant thing. I have to take down the gun. I'm going to do it really quickly because I want to show you how to do a field strip later. But let let me take the camera down. If you look at the feeding ramp, you can see how it's like two parts. Now, that's not really a problem if you have just normal full metal jacket ball ammunition, which was what this and the PP and the PPK were designed to fire because they were military guns. But if you get any kind of hollow point ammunition or lead-nosed ammunition, you'll get a problem because it might snag on there. Nowadays, with the Smith & Wesson ones, the feeding ramp is at a little different angle and it's one piece. And that basically makes it into a modern gun, which can fire any ammunition, and that's really nice. I'll talk about what kind of ammunition this particular one can fire a little bit later. Let me put the camera back. Alright. Put this back together really quickly. Alright, now for the review portion. This is my father's gun, actually. He purchased it in 1979 for concealed carry purposes. This is a West German-made 380 ACP version. It comes with two magazines, one with a lip and one without. Each holds 7 rounds. If you get the 32 ACP version, it holds 8 rounds each. The barrel size is 3.3 inches, which is the same as the PPK. It weighs about 22.5 ounces, which is pretty hefty for a gun this size. To put that in perspective of a more modern gun, the Glock 36, which is the .45 caliber slimline 6-shot concealed carry gun that Glock makes, weighs 2 ounces less than this. I like it that it's this heavy. It just makes it feel more solid in your hand. It's just something I prefer. Over the years, me and my dad have put thousands of rounds through this thing. I mean, we've not seen a decrease in accuracy at all, and we've never seen anything break on it, and the only time it's ever had any like failure to feeds is because of bad ammunition or a misseated magazine. And since we're talking about ammunition, anything other than the modern Smith & Wesson PPKs and PPKSs have that 2-tiered feed ramp. All the inner arms, all the French-made and all the German-made ones have that. Because of that, they're a little more finicky on ammo. Now, I can fire pretty much any Full Metal Jacket brand through this, no problem. Never had a problem with anything other than hollow points. Now, this is a Winchester Silvertip. They actually don't make these anymore, but anything with a wide mouth hollow point on it doesn't really feed all the time. So if you're going to carry this, I don't recommend using it. It just catches on sometimes that second tier of the feeding ramp, and that's not good. And that's not good. It's just if you do carry this, it could be bad in the situation when you actually really need it. Move this back. We have found that ammunition like this does fire very well. Now, you may think that that looks exactly like a normal Full Metal Jacket. Well, it is almost. The tip is actually just drilled out. And that means it still expands, but it feeds fine because it has that smooth surface on the side. Alright, now for the features of this gun. This features along with the PPK too, a external safety that also doubles as a decocker. And the way that works is when you put it into safe mode, it decocks the hammer, disables the trigger, and puts up a break between the hammer and the firing pin. There's also an internal safety that does not allow the hammer to strike the firing pin unless the trigger is pulled all the way back, which is a nice little feature. This does not have a external slide lock, and if you don't know what that is, I have a Gen 2 Glock 19 here. It is safe, nothing in it, and right here is an external slide lock. And the way that works is when the slide is pulled back, you can just push up on that and it locks it. The way this works is you have to insert an empty magazine and then rack the slide, and that locks it back. Some people don't like that. I really don't care, but it is an issue for some people. Another nice feature that has been on every PP series of pistol is a loaded chamber indicator, and that is right there. It's a little hard to see, but the way it works is that when there's a round in there, let me see if I can find it, it pushes it out. You can see it going in and out right there. It's a nice feature. Most modern firearms actually have the loaded chamber indicator on the extractor. This one does not. Alright, trigger pull. In double action, this has a pretty heavy 13.4 pound trigger pull. Although it is smooth, I don't use it that much. It decreases my accuracy on first shot, and I don't conceal carry, so I really have no reason to. And it's just a little heavy for me. In single action, however, this has a 6 pound trigger pull. To compare that to a modern firearm, Glocks have 5.5 pound trigger pulls. It's extremely predictable, which means that it goes right when you think it's going to release. I've always liked that about it. It's my second favorite trigger next to the Colt 1911 one. Alright, let's do a field strip. First off, you want to make sure it's safe. We already did that. Then I like doing it with the safety off purely because when you reassemble it, the hammer will automatically it will do that. It will automatically slam forward once it's all back together, and you might pinch your skin. So I like to do it when it is not safe. Start off, take it in your hand, take your free hand, and pull the trigger guard down and move it to the left side, and it will catch on the frame. Once you do that, you want to firmly grab hold of the slide, pull all the way back, lift up, and let the guide spring just force the whole slide forward, and that will come off easily. Then you can put the trigger guard down, remove the main spring, and there you have a fully field stripped Walther PPKS. Now, one thing you'll notice, this has an integrated barrel into the frame, and that's because this is straight blowback. One benefit of that is that it's extremely accurate for such a small barrel. Also, the barrel doubles as the guide rod for the spring, which reduces part number. Bad things, you have to replace the whole frame if you want to replace the barrel, and that can get expensive, and you need to go through an FFL dealer. Let's put this thing back together. So you just want to have the trigger guard down again. Remember, you want to push it to the left and it'll catch onto the frame. Then you want to put the guide spring back on. Now, you can't really see it in this, but one side is flat and the other side is not. You want to put the flat side on first. Once you do that, you take the slide, put it back on, and pull it all the way back, let it sit, and there you go. You can put the trigger guard back down, and the gun is now ready to fire. I highly recommend this pistol. If you're concealed carrying, it's a very thin gun, which is nice. If you're concealed carrying, it's just a little heavy, and if you don't like that, then there are plenty of other options. The one problem with this is that modern Smith & Wesson ones cost around $700, which is not very cheap. If you can afford one of these, though, I really recommend them. They're such beautiful guns. They have so much history behind them, and you'll always get someone to ask you about them when you're at the range. I hope you enjoyed the video. I really enjoyed making it, and I want to make some more. Yeah, thanks for watching.